on.
Welcome back, dear listeners.
Okay. Okay, you wanted to talk about immortality.
Oh, yes, okay. So there's this point in the reading where Hannah Arendt kind of goes into this idea that there's a lot to it, but where she says that this sort of like rebellion, this burn everything down and start again, is keeping us from progressing because we can't continue to build. And I think that's also built on this sort of like idealistic notion, like she admits it's idealistic, and she's like, and try to imagine this, if not for the fact that it could be, but for the fact of imagining it, the society in which there are no laws, and there is no force, and there is no violence, because even prisoners are not kept in their cells, they're persuaded to stay there. This idea when everybody interacts socially, everybody talks to each other, and everybody clashes there, and this goes into the whole like acting and sharing your ideas and having them interact with other people. But this idea that like we should strive not to force people to do things, but to convince people to do things. And that sort of builds into this this idea of a society in which we don't burn everything down, we don't start over, because we want to change the society, not build a new one. And I think there's this... Okay. That really upset the ghost. But there's this idea in modern culture that, like, in order for prejudices to die, you just have to wait for the older generation to die off, or for an institution. There's this sort of like rebel, start it over. There's a line in a Sleater Kinney song that I love and that I actually consider getting a tattoo of. That is, if I'm to run the future, you've got to let the old world go. And that's sort of this... Actually, as I'm thinking about that, that doesn't necessarily mean destruction. But there's this idea where like we have to burn everything down and start over, and then there's this idea that we instead need to change society. That we need to, instead of building a new one, we need to change what we have, right? And then we can continue to build upwards. But so often, especially in the political field, especially today, you see people are becoming more and more inflexible, less and less willing to listen to other people, more and more extreme in their ideals. And so, like, what do you do about that? Like, because the obvious solution is to burn it down. The obvious solution is, if people are not going to listen, if people are not going to change their minds, if people are not willing to interact their ideas, then we need to make a new thing where we can compromise. But then we're not building. We're creating another society where that can happen again because it doesn't have the history of being at that point,
Right.
because it's new. And
I like
so,
building up antibodies.
yeah.
So if we build a resistance to racism, if we build a resistance to hatred and lack of empathy and
God forbid.
power and greed and all those things, I personally don't like, but some people dig it. Yeah, so if we could learn from our mistakes, that's how we learn as humans.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could do that as a society, and I think that's what we are doing. And maybe this inflexibility that you're seeing right now is a backlash to the sudden surge of liberal ideas, where gay marriage is accepted, not just here, but in a lot of other countries now. And people are freaking out, so they're like, whoa, 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 and they're trying to steady
It's like
the boat.
culture shock.
It's
So
like
they-
very
they're
becoming like smaller and smaller, because I guess it's like they see it as an outside force trying to penetrate. with
They are being
their-
conditioned.
Yeah,
The
they're
racists feel like they are being conditioned to, or homophobes, or,
The haters.
the haters. Yeah, and they have a right to be whoever they want to be. They can be that, and they can join our little KKKs and all that stuff. But we also have to like say, well, now you're on the unpopular side, And
Now you know how it feels, like initially initially, it started off as like,
Yeah.
you know, like when people say, oh, like I'm becoming a minority in my own country, you know, and I'm just like, shut the hell up, you know.
And
like,
if minorities were treated well, if you treated minorities well, then maybe that wouldn't be a concern to you.
Yeah.
But I saw a documentary recently called The Honor Diaries, and it was about a group of feminist activists from the Middle East who were going on essentially a quest to campaign for women's rights in Middle Eastern countries. And one of the things they said really stuck with me. And what they said is that there is no room for, well, one of them said, is that there is no room for relativism with human rights. And that is this idea, like, we want everybody to be able to act on whatever prejudices they want, because anybody can be anybody. But you can't take the Middle East, in which women are killed over refusing to let their sexuality be controlled, where women are having their driver's license taken away from them because they should be at home, or their human rights are being taken away from them, and we shouldn't be able to say that's just their culture because we want everybody to have human rights. There's no room for this.
That's where society comes in and says, no, we're not going to allow you to do that.
But what if society is the people doing it? Because in their situation, it largely is.
Right.
they're the outlier from this group.
They are the outlier in our society, so the social norm would be conditioning them to fit in with that. And it's,
They could die for that.
yeah, they,
For defending that.
and, you know, I mean, I think about that a lot in this class, ever since I saw that documentary, which was like a month or so ago. This idea of like differing ideas and allowing people to have differing ideas and combating the differing ideas, it was, at what point do you draw a line and decide that an idea, that you decide that something is unacceptable? Because you can't like go, I feel like a backlash to this is kind of what we're having now with like Donald Trump and everybody. Donald Trump is being racist in public, and people feel like their ability to be racist has been suppressed and streamlined by social, and they're like getting excited because now they can.
Trump is like opening his fat mouth and saying all these like vulgar things and just sensationalist things that catch attention, right?
But it's like, can we really? What we want as an American culture, I feel like, is depending on the person. We either want a place where every time someone is racist, they get attacked, they get fired, people get incredibly mad at them. Or you want an ability where you can be racist, and that's okay because that's your choice. But the thing is when you are racist, you take jobs, you take even, like, a lot of times, political office, and then all of a sudden, your racism is affecting other people. And that's where people, I mean, I feel like that's where, as Americans, we feel like, I say like as Americans, but there's a lot of people that don't agree with this. I feel like the general notion is that you should be able to swing your fist all the way up to the other person's nose, but not hit the other person's nose. That's where it's wrong. And I feel like people are in denial when they are hitting other people's noses. Because if you're Kim Davis, if you're in office and you are breaking the law on account of your religion, that's you punching other people. That's you taking your prejudice and affecting other people. But like, the thing is, if we allow, I'm thinking about
He
this.
doesn't like what we're saying.
No, he doesn't.
He
He's
doesn't
like,
like what we're saying.
that dog is a Donald Trump supporter. But do we want a society where like racism is not okay? Because, I mean, honestly, we do. All of us do. I don't know where I'm going with this.
All right, I have a
Okay.
thought. What we talked about in the previous book, we need dissenters. We need to see the other side of their truth, so we can have an argument, even if we're right. Even if we're right, which we are.
Yes.
Yes.
But, I mean, absolutely.
we need to
I'm by
hear-
no means saying that racism
We
is
need to
okay,
hear
because it
the
isn't.
Donald Trumps and the other people that support Donald Trump.
The thing is like wanting to though, I mean, like, do you honestly wanna give them
No.
a chance?
I don't wanna hear
I
the
don't
other side of the
either.
room.
Yeah,
You know
but
what
we
I'm
have,
talking about.
we have to.
But we have to, because we live in a world with these people, and we need to know
How
what's
they
out
think.
there.
But
And we need,
that's
we need
risky.
to teach our children how to discern a good person from a bad person by knowing what a bad person is.
But there's, I mean, just to throw out a devil's advocate out there, if those people are there, there's always a chance of them winning. If there isn't that social streamline to not do that, then there's the idea that Donald Trump could win office. That's sort of the price of it, I guess. And I mean, God forbid, because no.
Just
Right.
no.
Yes,
That would be.
I would move to Canada.
that's when I start like exploiting my lineage and trying to get my New Zealand passport.
Okay, so I wanted to say, like, if we, like, for example, we think it's right, and then Donald Trump is just the same.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like
Potato.
if we don't,
Talking to them.
if we don't, like, if we don't, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, okay, so if we don't teach our children the other side, or if we don't see the other side, like, you know, someone who doesn't know the other side, and they're just, maybe they'll think, oh, well, they're just trying
Oh,
to make
it's
me
like,
believe.
it's just like in the book we're reading right now, in The Dispossessed, when they judge that other society for like, and they've never known the other side, like, so are they really like, you know, disgusting, like, gluttonous and stuff, and then when they get questioned, the other people are like, why are you even asking that?
I mean, it's
Yes,
the
like,
others.
indoctrinating
But I just
us.
wanted to be like,
Yeah.
it'd be like the, what is it called? Like, I lost my train of thought. Oh, no, it's fine. About the, like, it could, because everything else is like forbidden, so like, you know, you become curious about it, and then that might actually turn you away from the actual right. Like, if I have a daughter and I'm like, I teach her my ways, and I don't tell her anything else, she doesn't know anything else, she's gonna be like, well, why don't I know about this? I wanna know about this, and it could actually lead her to
Like with sex.
wanting to go to the wrong side, and
Yeah.
like that's why I think everyone should be exposed to everything, not so that like
I feel like
so
not
that they
being-
don't
yeah.
feel like they're
Not
being
being
suppressed in a
exposed,
way.
not being exposed to certain aspects of things does create like privilege. That's how I feel. Because like
Yeah.
if someone is not exposed to like say poverty or someone with like dealing with poverty, they're always gonna be like, oh well, they got themselves that way, you know, or like it was their fault, like inherently.
Right.
So I do feel like if you don't know the other side, like it does harm, you know, it harms whoever is in that position, not.
But like, do we need dissenters for human rights though? Do we need people to be there to say like these people should have their fundamental human rights taken away to know that that's right? That's that. I mean, I stumbled a
gives
lot and
us-
said a lot of things, but that's ultimately what I was trying to
It
say.
gives us a common enemy, something to fight, something
It
for us
does.
to come together and say, we are going to, eventually kill you off. Cause you will eventually,
But once we kill them
realize-
off, then our ideal society in that point is where we don't have them. And
no,
you're saying we do need.
there will be something else. I mean,
Yeah.
There's always going
yeah,
to
there's
be
always gonna be
a common
something.
enemy, yeah.
We have gotten rid of most of the people that, think women shouldn't vote, you know, in our
Literally
country.
everyone.
In our
like, yeah,
country.
The only ones left are related to me. I swear to God. We have no relations with my extended family for a lot of the same reason that I have to pluck my unibrow.
I'm sure that all those people that believe women cannot vote live here in Georgia. They are probably cousins that got married. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like our state has those kind of people. And like we're exposed to those kind of people. But like, do we honestly want I have a hard time giving people a chance to talk when they are just like inherent, like just so wrong.
I don't
When it comes to
necessarily
human rights,
want to hear them
especially.
talk, but I want to know they exist. I don't want them hiding underground, like he.
Oh, behind a
Yeah.
screen, behind a computer screen.
It's
Yeah.
more scary.
Yeah. I'd like to know who thinks that.
Anyone could be an agent.
Like my friends, I have had friends pop up and say things sometimes I'm looking at them like, I had no idea.
That you were like that.
And
Yeah.
I've been hanging out with you, and people are gonna think that I'm like that, and so I'm glad they said it, because now I hang out with them.
I dated someone for a year, and then all of a sudden she looked at someone and said, "Ah, that N-word," and I was like, we're done, never speak to me again, go away. And I was just,
Oh,
That's horrible.
Yeah, I had like never had said anything like that before, and it was just out of nowhere, and like it wasn't even like a joke. It was I was just like, oh my god, how have I like been so close to you? Leave.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh crap, I was
Okay.
So-